Stop scrolling for 1 second. Somewhere on your street, right now, there is a porch producing more fresh fruit than most backyards 10 times its size, and the owner spent less on the whole setup than 1 week of groceries. I'm not talking about a garden. I'm talking about pots, containers, a patio, a balcony, a driveway corner that gets a few hours of sun. By the end of this video, you'll have 13 trees that thrive in containers, exactly which variety to buy for each one, exactly how big a pot they need, and the 3 mistakes that kill almost every container fruit tree in America before it ever produces a single piece of fruit. And stick around for tree number 1. It's not the one you're expecting. It can live for over 100 years in the same pot, and almost nobody talks about it. Let's get into it. Tree 13, dwarf pomegranate. We're starting with the tree that is nearly impossible to kill. Look for Nana or State Fair, both dwarf varieties that top out under 4 feet. A 15 to 20-gallon container is all the room they need. Here's the part most people never hear. Pomegranates don't fight a small container. They respond to it. A tight root zone tells the tree to stop expanding and start fruiting. You're not limiting it, you're speeding it up. A mature container pomegranate can hand you 15 to 30 fruits a season. Check the price tag. Next time you're near the produce section, pomegranates routinely run $3 to $4 a piece. That's a single pot quietly generating somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 to well over $100 in fruit year after year. It's also drought tolerant once established, which means it forgives the week you forgot to water it. Zones 7 through 11 can leave it outside year-round. Anywhere colder, just bring it in before the first hard frost and set in a sunny window. It'll pick back up in spring like nothing happened. Quick gut check before tree 12. Has a plant ever died on you and you had no idea why? Drop it in the comments. I want to know what you've tried and what went wrong, because that tells me exactly what to cover next. Tree 12, container fig. Most fruit trees merely tolerate a container. The fig actually prefers one. Restrict a fig's roots slightly, and the tree reads it as a signal. Stop growing outward, start producing. The result is often a heavier, earlier harvest than you'd get from the same tree plant in the ground. Varieties to search for: Petite Negra, Brown Turkey, or if you're anywhere north of the Mason-Dixon line, Chicago Hardy. It shrugs off cold that would kill most other figs. Gardeners in Zone 5 and 6 are wintering these successfully in nothing more than an unheated garage. A mature container fig can push out 75 to 150 figs in a season. Walk past a farmer's market table of fresh figs, sometime $6 to $9 for a half pint is normal. That's a single tree quietly worth somewhere between $80 and $200 in fruit every summer. One trick worth remembering: as the fruit ripens, ease off watering slightly. Let the soil dry a bit more between waterings than you normally would. That small stress concentrates the sugars inside the fruit, and the flavor difference is not subtle. If this is useful so far, this is a good moment to hit subscribe, because tree 4 is the one growers actively get talked out of. I don't want you to miss it. Tree 11, dwarf peach. Here's an uncomfortable truth. The peach in your grocery cart was picked 7 to 10 days before it was ripe. Not for flavor, for survival. It had to make it through cold storage, a distribution center, and a store shelf without turning to mush. What you're eating isn't a ripe peach. It's a peach engineered to look ripe. A container peach skips all of that. Look for Bonanza, Pix Z, or Eldorado bred specifically for pots, staying around 5 to 6 feet tall and self-pollinating, so one tree is all you need. These aren't miniature novelty peaches either, full size, ripened completely on the branch. A mature tree yields 20 to 50 peaches a season, with organic peaches running $3.50 to $4.50 a pound. That's 60 to well over $100 in fruit from one container, and that number climbs as the tree matures. Here's the step almost everyone skips, and it's the difference between good peaches and disappointing ones. When the baby fruits first set, thin them by about half. It feels wrong. But the peaches you leave behind get double the sugar and double the nutrients the tree would have split across all of them: bigger, sweeter fruit, and a healthier tree. The real container advantage with peaches, though, is frost protection. A late spring frost after bloom can wipe out an entire in-ground harvest overnight. See a frost warning coming? Roll the container against the house or into the garage. 10 minutes of effort saves your whole season. Tree 10. Blueberry bush. Blueberries are some of the priciest fruit in the produce aisle, and also some of the most forgiving container plants you can own. Once you understand the one thing that trips almost everyone up. Blueberries need acidic soil, a pH around 4.5 to 5.5. Regular potting mix it closer to neutral, around 6.5 to 7. Plant a blueberry straight into standard soil, and it will slowly yellow and stall, and most people never figure out why. The container is actually your advantage here, not your limitation. You control the soil completely. Use an azalea/rhododendron mix, or blend potting soil heavily with peat moss, and you've built exactly the environment blueberries want. Try replicating that in open ground, and it's a constant fight. 4 varieties. Top Hat stays under 18 inches and fits tiny spaces. Peach Sorbet is a bigger, heavier producer, and Jelly Bean is a compact option that still fruits well. Between varieties, blueberries cover zones 3 through 10 nearly the whole country. A mature plant gives 3 to 5 pounds of berries a season. At $5 to $7 a pound for organic, 3 plants on a porch can represent somewhere around $45 to over $100 in fruit each summer, and blueberry plants live for decades. There's a bonus nobody mentions. In fall, blueberry foliage turns a deep crimson red. It's ornamental and edible at once, and your neighbors will ask what it is. Tree 9. Dwarf cherry. Cherries regularly hit $8 to $12 a pound at peak season, and even more when they're imported. And yet almost nobody tries growing them, for one reason: birds. An in-ground cherry tree is nearly impossible to net properly. The canopy is too wide, too tall. You lose an entire harvest overnight without ever seeing it happen. A potted cherry tree flips that completely. Bird netting goes over a container in minutes, and it actually stays put. That single advantage alone makes container cherries a better bet than in-ground ones for most backyards. Look for Romeo, Juliet, or Carmine Jewel tart cherry varieties that are also some of the most cold-hardy fruit trees available, thriving in zones 3 through 8. If you're anywhere in the upper Midwest or New England, these handle it without complaint. A mature container cherry produces 10 to 20 pounds of fruit season. At roughly $10 a pound, that's somewhere between $100 and $200 in fruit annually, and tart cherries freeze, bake, and preserve beautifully, so your harvest stretches for months, not days. They're also loaded with antioxidants and have been studied specifically for anti-inflammatory effects. So beyond the savings, there's a genuine health case for this one too. And every spring, before a single cherry appears, the tree buries itself in white and pink blossoms. Tree 8. Meyer lemon. Every other tree on this list has a season. This one doesn't play by that rule. A healthy Meyer lemon is ever-bearing. At any given moment. It's carrying flowers, developing fruit, and ripe lemons all at once. You're not waiting for a harvest window. You're just harvesting. Look specifically for the improved Meyer lemon. The original carried a virus that could spread to other citrus, and the improved version is the clean, standard choice today. A 10 to 15-gallon pot is enough. Zones 9 through 11 can leave it outside year-round. Zones 6 through 8, which covers an enormous swath of the country, grow it outside from spring through fall and bring it in for winter. It handles the move fine and will keep producing indoors with enough light. One established tree can produce 50 to 200 lemons a year. At $1 to $2 per lemon, that's $50 in savings at the low end and well over $150 at full production. You don't need expensive citrus-specific fertilizer. A balanced, slow-release granular does the core work. Add a monthly Epsom salt solution, about a tablespoon per gallon of water, for the magnesium citrus craves. That's the whole system. And when this tree blooms repeatedly, all year, the fragrance is extraordinary. It's the kind of scent people pay real money for in candles, and you get it for free. Tree 7. Kumquat. Most people walk right past kumquat trees at the nursery without a second glance. That's a mistake, because this might be the most underrated fruit tree on this entire list. Here's what makes it strange and wonderful. You eat the whole fruit, skin and all, and the flavors are backward for what you'd expect. The skin is sweet. The flesh is tart. It's the opposite of every other citrus you've ever had. Kumquats barely ship or store, so the only way most people ever taste a truly fresh one is by growing it themselves. Look for Nagami or Maiwa, both self-pollinating, both excellent in a 10 to 15-gallon pot. They're outdoor year-round in zones 8 through 11. But here's the standout fact. Kumquats are the most cold-tolerant citrus in existence, handling brief dips down to 15 degrees Fahrenheit. That means growers in Zone 7 parts of Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma can grow these with minimal winter protection. A mature tree doesn't produce a handful of fruit, it produces hundreds, loaded so heavily the branches look almost decorative. At $6 to $10 for a small carton at a farmer's market, one tree can represent well over $100 in fruit a season. And when it blooms, your whole porch smells like a citrus grove for weeks. Tree 6, columnar apple. A columnar apple grows straight up 8 to 10 feet tall, about 2 feet wide, almost no side branches. Fruit forms directly on short spurs along the trunk. Full-sized apples from a tree with the footprint of a large planter. Look for North Pole, Scarlet Sentinel, or Golden Sentinel reliable performers in zones 4 through 8, which covers most apple-growing regions in the country. A 15 to 20-gallon container gives it what it needs. Here's the part worth planning around. You can fit 3 or 4 columnar apples on a single balcony. Pick varieties that ripen at different times, and you're harvesting fresh apples from late August through October. Each tree gives 15 to 30 apples a season, and with organic apples running $2.50 to $4 a pound, 3 trees can add up to well over $200 in fruit and apple store for months. So, a fall harvest can carry you into January. There's also a practical edge here. A 2-foot-wide tree can be inspected in minutes. Pests and disease get caught early, before they spread something that's almost impossible with a full-size tree, where the top half is out of reach. Tree 5, dwarf mulberry. If you've never grown a mulberry, this one deserves real attention because it breaks the biggest complaint people have about fruit trees: the weight. Container mulberries can start producing in their first or second year faster than almost anything else on this list. If years-long waits have kept you from planting fruit trees before, this is the one that removes that excuse. Look for dwarf everbearing or Illinois everbearing, both cold-hardy, both suited to containers, and Illinois everbearing covers zones 5 through 10, an enormous range. Give it a 20 to 25-gallon pot, and it rewards you heavily. Mulberries don't trickle out fruit. They flood you with it. Fresh mulberries are almost never sold in grocery stores because they're too delicate to ship, so when they do show up at a farmer's market, expect $8 to $12 a pint. Your tree becomes the only real source on your block. Birds love these even more than cherries, so the same trick applies. Net the container, not the tree, and protect your harvest in minutes instead of losing the fight entirely. Tree 4, dwarf avocado. This is the one growers get quietly talked out of, and I want to explain why that happens. Avocados sell for $5 to $8 each right now, and that price isn't dropping. Trees are often sold with a built-in low expectation. Most buyers won't successfully get fruit. They'll get discouraged, and they'll come back to buy more trees or more avocados. A dwarf avocado with the right container, soil, and drainage fruits reliably, and when it does, the math changes fast. Look specifically for Wirtz, also sold as Little Cato, the only true dwarf avocado widely available. It stays 8 to 10 feet tall in a container, is self-pollinating, and produces full-sized fruit indistinguishable from store-bought. Give it a minimum 20 to 25-gallon container. Don't undersize this one. Zones 9 through 11 can leave it outside year-round. Zones 7 and 8 grow it outdoors April through October and bring it in for winter. The honest catch: it takes 3 to 4 years before it fruits meaningfully. But think about that differently for a second. Will you still be buying avocados 4 years from now? Almost certainly. The tree is growing somewhere either way. Once it fruits, expect 20 to 40 avocados a year, worth somewhere around $120 to $240 annually at current prices, and it keeps producing for 2 decades or more. Over its lifetime, that's a return most investments can't touch. Drainage is the single most important factor. Mix in about 30% perlite before plant-in avocado roots suffocate in waterlogged soil faster than almost anything else on this list. Get that right, and this tree pays you back for decades. Tree 3. Ever-bearing strawberry tower. Strawberries obviously aren't trees, but leaving this off would be doing you a disservice because nothing else on this list produces food this consistently or this fast. From late spring through the first fall frost, a strawberry tower is producing daily at peak season. You walk out in the morning, there's fruit. You walk out that evening, there's more. Nothing else on this list gives you that rhythm. Look for Seascape, Albion, or Ozark Beauty ever-bearing varieties proven across zones 3 through 10. A vertical tower packs 20 to 30 plants into about 2 square feet of porch space. At peak, that's several pounds of berries a week. With organic strawberries running $5 to $7 a pound, a full season can produce $150 to $300 worth of fruit from a setup that costs under $40 to build. Strawberries also send out runner's baby plants at the tips of long stems. Pot those up, let them root, and use them to replace older plants. The tower essentially maintains itself for free after the initial setup. Tree 2. Dwarf banana. People see a banana plant on a porch and assume it's purely decorative. That assumption is costing them real food because a dwarf banana in the right container is genuinely productive. Look for dwarf Cavendish or super dwarf Cavendish. The super dwarf tops out around 4 to 6 feet and produces the exact same Cavendish banana sold in every American grocery store, not some exotic novelty variety. Use a 20 to 25 gallon container. These are heavy feeders that want rich, consistently moist soil. Zones 9 through 11 can keep it outside year-round. Zones 7 and 8 should treat it as seasonal, moving it out once nights stay above 50 degrees Fahrenheit and back in before the first cold snap. First harvest typically arrives in 1.5 to 2 years, but when it comes all at once. A single bunch from a mature plant can weigh 20 to 40 pounds, or 50 to 100 bananas in one cycle. After that main stem fruits and dies back, the plant sends up new shoots called pups from the base. Pot those separately, and each one becomes its own fruiting plant, one purchase turning into a self-renewing supply. Tree 1. Dwarf olive tree. Most people expect citrus or apple to take the top spot. It's actually the tree most gardeners walk straight past at the nursery, assuming it's just a decorative Mediterranean accent plant. The Arbequina dwarf olive earns the #1 position for reasons nothing else on this list can match. It's self-pollinating, fits comfortably in a 15 to 20 gallon container, and produces heavy crops of small, flavorful olives suited for curing, eating, or pressing into oil. Zones 8 through 11 can keep it outside year-round. Zones 6 and 7, a huge chunk of the Mid-Atlantic, Midwest, and Pacific Northwest actually benefit from bringing it into a cool garage or unheated sunroom for winter, because olive trees need a period of cold to trigger strong fruiting. It comes back out in spring and produces even more heavily for having rested. And here's the detail nothing else on this list can claim. Olive trees can live for centuries. A tree planted in a pot on your porch this year could genuinely outlive you. A mature container olive gives 10 to 20 pounds of olives a season. Specialty olives sell for $8 to $15 a pound, and the value only grows if you press your own oil. The drought tolerance is extraordinary too. These trees evolved in some of the harshest, driest conditions on Earth, and overwatering, not neglect, is what actually damages them. One thing before your first harvest: fresh olives straight off the branch are intensely bitter and ineatable raw. Water curing, soaking them in fresh water, changed daily for 2 to 4 weeks, removes the bitterness completely and costs nothing but time. Brine curing produces even more complex flavor. Bonus: the 3 mistakes killing most container fruit trees. I promised you this at the start, and it matters more than any single tree on this list. Mistake 1 black plastic pots in full sun. On a hot day, soil inside a black container in direct sun can climb above 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Roots start dying at that temperature, silently, long before you see damage above ground. Switch to light-colored containers, fabric grow bags, or terracotta. This one change can double the lifespan of every tree you own. Mistake 2 salt buildup from tap water. Every watering leaves behind a small amount of dissolved minerals from tap water. Over months, that builds to toxic levels, and the symptoms look exactly like a nutrient deficiency, so people respond by adding more fertilizer, which makes it worse. Every 4 to 6 months, flush the container by watering heavily until it runs freely from the drainage holes for several minutes. Mistake 3, fertilizing a stressed tree. When a tree looks bad, yellowing, dropping fruit, stunted growth, the instinct is to feed it. That's exactly backwards. A stressed tree can't process fertilizer, and the salts in it burn an already compromised root system. Only fertilize a tree that's actively growing and visibly healthy. Close. 13 trees, 3 mistakes, and everything you need to start turning a few square feet of porch into a real food source. Here's what I want from you. Tell me in the comments which tree you're starting with and what part of the country you're growing in. I read all of them, and it genuinely shapes what I cover next. If this helped, subscribe. New videos on growing real food in small spaces go up every week, and the next one builds directly on this list. Now go get a pot, get a tree, and start growing something that actually pays you back.